Hi, this is Jennie Walker, and welcome to I'm Not Old, I'm Archival. We're here today with Ellen Parker. She's the founder and CEO of Parker PR and Parker Media, an award-winning entrepreneur with all this amazing experience working with nonprofits and local businesses and businesses that have national and international ties. And she's going to talk to us today about PR and how we as vintage sellers, vintage dealers, people in this new and exciting retail space can kind of think about how to present ourselves into the world. And so many of us are one man shows, and we're really good at making a post on Instagram kind of thing or going on to TikTok. But Ellen is going to share some of the real tools and techniques of what is working in 2026 for people in fashion and in particularly our segment of fashion. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you so much for having me, all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
I know. I've had my first Canadian on the show.
Yay!
Welcome. So, Ellen, so you have this wonderful company. Now, we met at a vintage show. So, just to kind of get into this, why I have the opportunity to talk to you is I was having a booth at Mitchell's of Palm Springs, Mitchell Carp. He has this wonderful event that takes place twice a year during Modernism Week in Palm Springs called the Curated Vintage Event. I was there with a booth, and you happened to be there with your girlfriends on a shopping trip at the vintage show, and we met in my booth. And so we connected there. Not only did we meet, you actually purchased an amazing archival minted Moschino piece from me, the super famous documented pink plaid safety pin jacket. And that's how we met, and that's why we're in touch today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I remember that day. It was so fun, and there were many different great booths at Mitchell's, and yours caught my eye because your collection is so unique, and I have always loved vintage. I also love Chanel, and I also consider myself to have a bit of a slight edge to my fashion at times. So that piece caught my eye, and it was perfect. And I wear it in Calgary and get so many compliments, and I think what you and all of your like-minded friends in fashion business, I think you're doing really amazing things, and I have lots of ideas for you.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear them. That is just fantastic. So, you did something that really impressed me. After you bought the jacket, you bought the book. Because yes, you
Yes,
did.
I did. I ordered the book as soon as I got back, and I looked through it and really enjoyed it. And, it's so great when there's a wonderful story and history that goes along with fashion.
Absolutely. So the book we're talking about is the 10-year anniversary book. It's called Chaos and Moschino, where they document beautifully the most iconic pieces of the brand that the brand itself is pointing to that represent the brand so well. So in it is, of course, that jacket. And paired with that jacket is the famous Channel Number 5 T-shirt that caused quite a scandal at the time in a lawsuit with the Chanel company, one of which I have in my archive. I found one. It was so exciting.
Okay, I'm going to need that one.
Good luck. So I have to try to find another one. So anyway, so it was so exciting to see someone really kind of resonate with the piece because you were tortured. Like you were like, I don't know, it's really good, and but eventually you made your decision and you took it home, and I think you've gotten a lot of compliments on it. But that was our introduction,
Yes.
and we've stayed in touch since then. And I just appreciate you being here. So, what kind of tips do you have for people that are vintage sellers like myself?
So, first of all, let's just even talk about that book.
Okay.
So, I think there's an opportunity for people like yourself, Jenny, to create some sort of a document, whether it's online that you can download, put it on your Instagram, your socials, showcasing some of your pieces that people can refer to, they can look at. I traveled here with friends. If we had had sort of a print off of some of the pieces that you have in your collection here in New York, that could potentially incentivize myself and my girlfriends to come to your gallery in your home and purchase pieces from you. So, really speaking about how we're communicating to our targeted audiences. And I'll talk about a process that identifies some different tactics. So, number one, we think about all the audiences, right? So, let's think about the media. How can we tell our story to fashion magazines, fashion bloggers, influencers? This kind of micro communication opportunity can be super effective. So, how are we connecting with those people? Creating a professional media kit is one tool that can be effective on your website, for example, which tells the who, what, where, when, why of your brand, a bit about yourself, shows some of your pieces. This is something you can easily even send to, a journalist that happens to be writing about fashion for the fall in the New York Times, for example. Journalists and folks in the media world are so underfunded, and that landscape has changed drastically because of AI and the internet. They want their jobs to be easier, and we can make it easier for them by creating media kits and actively reaching out. That's just number one with media relations.
Great. Well, that's good to know. So I should create then a separate section on my website that's
A
basically
link, a tab at the top
okay.
that says in the news
Okay.
or press.
Okay.
On that tab, you have your professional media kit. On that tab, any articles written about you, even podcasts where we're talking fashion, can live on that tab, because we're creating a piece of press right now.
We are, aren't we? So, what are the elements of a good press kit for, again, someone in my field?
Yeah, so you want to have the who, what, where, when, why in the very first paragraph.
Okay.
People do not have a lot of time these days to read long scripts, right? Add some visuals, some of your key items, a little bit of storytelling. A page that has frequently asked questions can be critical. So, just where you're located, how to access your items, the price point range, some of your featured designers.
Oh, I love that. That is fantastic. All right. So that's the first step. So
Yeah.
I have it there. So how am I going to make these people aware that I have this? Do I just do a cold email, or what's the approach?
So I'm going to quickly touch on. So, we talked about media relations. Now, there's other elements of communication that you guys can all deploy, people like yourselves in this industry. The goal of PR is third party endorsement. So, the goal of PR is having people like myself talk about your brand, people like the media talk about your brand, to get a buzz vibrating in the community, right? So, you create that information for your media kit. Do you also have an e-blast? Do you also have a newsletter? You can put this content in there as well and actively blast it out to everyone you know. You might even do a call to action. If anyone has friends looking for great content for their media outlets, please connect them with me. I'd be delighted to share my story and insights so we can actively communicate. That's called external communications as a secondary way to generate brand awareness. And then other ways that you can do that are small pop-up events in your space, connecting with people in the community and inviting them to come and see and experience your pieces. Whenever you are doing anything with people, it's a wonderful opportunity to capture content. So now you can take tons of photos, hire a professional photographer, get a videographer, do some video, and use that content on social media, because social media is another one of those tactics that really help generate third-party endorsement, and being very mindful of when you're posting. If you're talking about Instagram, look at the analytics and figure out what time is the best time to post. Are you tagging 5 to 10 people per post? Are your posts active voice, catchy, quick, enticing? Include a call to action. Tell me your favorite jacket from what time period by what designer for a chance to win a bottle of champagne, for example. So thinking like that, number one, you're creating any content, whether it's for your media kit, your e-blast, your social media, how many places can you use it?
That is that is so good to hear. I have to tell you what happened to me. So
Okay.
you talk about third party endorsements. So this wonderful team called Jasmina and David. They're very famous. They have Jasmina TV. They are wonderful fashion influencers. And I met them a couple of years ago, kind of early on, because they're now all over the place. You see them, they're going to every fashion week. They're in Vogue magazine. They're everywhere. But I met them early in the process, and they came in to my showroom that I had in LA, and they did a lot of content, and they made probably 6 different videos, and I collectively, it's probably millions of views in these things that they did. But it was so interesting because they did something that I had not done for myself. And it was so interesting because I have like this weird kind of fog between me and what I have. As visual as Moschino is, as delightful as it is, as responsive as people are that see it at a pop up, there's something that prevents me from actually doing that myself. It's, I don't know what it is, and yet someone else coming in seems to tell a better story than I could tell myself, even though I know I could tell a good story. And it's just kind of interesting because I know it works, and I know that that was important. And I think my TikTok, they tagged me on TikTok. I went from like 200 followers to like 2,000 followers, and I saw these people just flooding in because there was so much traction on these videos inside my showroom, and people just, you know, freaking out in a really good way seeing all of this. And I was so just touched by the fact that they did it. I was thrilled by the response. But then I asked myself, they're doing something that I'm not even doing myself. And there's just some sort of strange barrier there that I don't understand. And I think it's important to hear it from you about how important it is to showcase what we have. And yes, third party is really important. As a matter of fact, it's some of the most important coverage I've gotten. Um, but yet there's still more I could be doing myself.
And now I'll ask you too, the concept of PR, the PR. So they came in, they took all these videos. Did you take some photos with these gals?
No.
Okay. So, and when they put those photos up, were you able to save them?
The videos are still alive and well on Instagram and and TikTok, so they're out there.
So there's a great thing called hashtag like Thursday is like hashtag Thursday, which is about a memory, and Throwback Thursday.
Okay.
So if you do hashtag Throwback Thursday, you can utilize all of this content. So PR, the PR. So you take these photos, you download them, remembering back to the time when these amazing women came and visited my pop-up, wherever it was. Thank you again. So you can keep resharing these things.
Right.
And that can be very effective. And then also consider when I mentioned the value of events for capturing content. Make sure you're taking photos with your customers. I mean, even if I had come in and you said, "Oh, let's get a selfie. What's your Instagram?" Right? So that way can be really effective because ultimately we're building a community.
Right.
It's about relationships. Business happens at the speed of relationships. So if you are building relationships with these people, then you're creating a community of connection. And, the power of purchasing things and how we all are very mindful of where we're spending our money. People want to spend their money with people who they trust, with people who they know, with brands that they care about because they know the story, because there's that essence of connection, right? So even thinking like that when you're out and about, whether you're running your pop-up, even when you're communicating with people digitally, which is a huge opportunity to connect with future customers, it's all about that relationship. And just going back to even being kind and open and warm and welcoming. And that's exactly what you were like in Palm Springs, which is what drew me to you, which is why we're here right now. So like the power of personal touch, I think is definitely often overlooked.
Well, you make such good points. And I feel like as a dealer, because what the customers don't know is what it takes to set that up. We're exhausted. Like we've schlepped it in. Some people have flown in from another state. Like there's so much physical work in setting up the booth and making it beautiful that um, it's a mentally and physically draining process. And so I have a wonderful excuse that I tell myself I'm too tired to do it, but it would be easy to do, and I do it on a very irregular basis. Like occasionally remember, oh, I should take a photo or two of what's going on in my booth, and then I'll put that out. But I haven't come up with a system, and it sounds like coming up with a professional system, and I think the key is to treat yourself as a professional business in order to get the results that a professional business would have when in PR.
Absolutely.
And I know I've seen a lot of articles lately talking about vintage dealers, and many of whom I know, and some I haven't come across yet. And so I asked myself, well, they're being profiled now. Why are they being profiled? Why are they being chosen? What is it? And it sounds like it's relationships, and people know of them, and they know their story, and so they can tell their story. But that's something that I know I would like. I would like to be able to have stories written about what I'm doing. I get the occasional mention because, like, I think Julia Roberts recently was written up in a bunch of magazines for having this wonderful outfit that had brooches all over a man's tie.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
her stylist, Elizabeth Stewart, was behind that. And so there was one article that mentioned where those pins came from. And it
Yeah.
was mentioned that it came from my archive.
Yeah.
Right. But I didn't do that. The people that happened on their side, and
Yeah.
they knew where that came from, and it was something that happened organically. It's not anything that I tried to do on my own, but it was such a
Beautiful
wonderful thing. Yeah.
And a tip for that would be, send her a card, send her a thank you card, and continue that relationship. Let me know if you need anything in the future. You can connect
The writer?
directly with me, the stylist
The stylist.
who
Okay.
borrowed the brochures. And that's the thing how I mentioned sending out your media kit.
Right.
It's a multi-pronged approach, and it has to be consistent, and you have to just continue to hit the pavement, honestly. Sending out those media kits, talking about yourself, presenting yourself as an option for interviews, looking at the news cycle. And when you see articles come out that reference vintage archives, connect with that writer that's listed in that article on LinkedIn often.
Right.
And just mention that you're available, you'd love to chat more. Make it easy for them.
So connecting on LinkedIn, would that be a preference over connecting on Instagram, for example?
I would say with writers in a professional capacity, then yes.
Okay.
It's definitely the more professional way to communicate, but I would do both. I would
Okay.
look for them on Instagram and look for them on LinkedIn because people have preferences. But the goal is write a list of communication tactics that you can consider and you can utilize to generate third-party endorsement, ultimately to sell your products. That list should include, number one, media relations. What are you doing? That's the media kit I talked about. Number two, e-blasts, newsletters, any kind of external communications that you're sending to your people. Even that's Christmas cards to your clients. Notes, birthday notes, if you know their birthday. Relationship building, right? Number three is social media. What are you doing on social media? You're utilizing Instagram, possibly LinkedIn, maybe TikTok. Be deliberate and intentional with what you're posting and think about what you're doing on social media. Number four, partnership developments. Think about different other businesses you could potentially partner with for mutually beneficial relationships and outcomes. So maybe you want to have an archival fashion event in a gallery. If you're going to do it in one gallery, then do it in a series of galleries because you're utilizing the same tactic and you're multiplying it, and it's going to be more effective. And now you've developed partnerships with each of those gallery owners.
Right.
It's not just beneficial for you, but it's also beneficial for them because now they're accessing your database. If you send an invitation, it goes to their entire database and your entire database, right? And you're also now building relationships between your clientele and their clientele. So it's a win-win. So partnerships. And then the fifth communication tactic to consider is sponsorship. Do you have a community investment opportunity? Are you donating X amount of proceeds to a charity? If you decide to donate X amount of proceeds, 5% of all sales at this pop-up will go to breast cancer awareness. You want to connect with the CEO or the administrator from that breast cancer awareness organization that you want to donate to and get them onboarded. Have them send the invitation out to their friends and their staff because now it's an opportunity for another partnership. And it's also an opportunity for you to give back to the community, which is super important. And then the last communication tactic I'll leave you with is video and photography. So what are you doing there? How is that elevating your brand? If you have a beautiful space with your archive collection, do a virtual tour with your phone and put it on your social media and put it on your Instagram, put it on your website. I have a client in Calgary, SB, an amazing shop. I recently went in there and I did a very quick video of the space and some of my favorite pieces. A week later, a friend of mine told me that she went in and she bought the exact outfit I showcased.
Oh, wow.
Because she saw it on my Instagram. Right. So it's called multi-pronged approach. You want to activate all those different communication tactics I mentioned. Use that same content over and over again. Business happens at the speed of relationships. Throwback Thursdays for all those old wins that happened. Keep PRing the PR on the old wins.
I love that. Now, I did learn something recently about TikTok. They don't like for me to show my stuff because they think it's selling, and it
So,
conflicts with TikTok shop selling.
so does it allow you to, or does it just?
It does not like it.
Okay.
It has stopped every video I have, so that tells me that I can still use TikTok for my video. It just can't be live, right?
Okay.
And so it was interesting because I thought going live would work, but it doesn't. Now, going live is really good on Instagram. A lot of people will. I've gone just a few times. I've gone live on Instagram just to kind of talk
Yeah.
about it and to showcase, and then people. It's sort of like I don't know whether sometimes to make it educational or if am I trying to talk about the brand? Am I trying to sell it? What am I trying to do? But Instagram has worked in terms of people actually seeing me on there and they're like, oh, is that for sale? Or, really engaging them there. So every platform seems to
Have
be a little different.
purpose. And be creative how you show things.
Right.
So don't show it from a salesy side. You can say that stuff in the caption. So you can present it like, we're really enjoying the quality of this garment with the cashmere weave and the silk lining or whatever it may be. So the way that you present things and speak about them can be helpful with respect to that comment.
I've actually seen a lot of good content on Instagram that I save, where people are talking about different techniques of, say, repair or things that they recommend. And I know it works on me because I definitely consume it, save it, and try to remember to refer back to it. But I haven't actually created content like that on my own. But I love hearing from you that that's the right thing to do.
Okay, excellent.
Well, do you have any last thoughts for us?
I would just say, think about building community.
Okay.
Think about building relationships, think about building partnerships that are mutually beneficial, and think about ways in which you can give back to the community around you because it's absolutely incredible the business outcomes that can happen when you consider how your brand is helping those less fortunate. It can be really strategic, like implementing some charity components in what you're doing. And I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. And what have you heard as we wrap up here about vintage, just from your side of things? You're obviously focused on clients that are in traditional retail, some luxury retail, and just wondering where vintage has come up in the conversation.
Well, right now, specifically with like trends of 2026, things that are really popular are like brooches, scarves, accessories, big, huge pieces of jewelry, statement necklace, cuffs. And I would say if you, Jennie, and your colleagues can really promote things that are easy to ship and sell, really focus on that because I think there's an opportunity to sell stuff from your home, from the comfort of your home right now, that especially in Canada also, because we don't have access to the kinds of items that you have here.
Interesting.
And selling through Instagram is super effective. So if you can become an e-commerce through your Instagram, very effective.
That is so good to know. Well, Ellen, thank you for joining me here. We are in Manhattan, where we've met up after having you're here on a trip with friends and colleagues all the way from Canada, but we met in California, and here we are in Manhattan. So I think that's fantastic. We are awesome. We're super global here all of a sudden. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ellen, for joining me. And for the listeners, I hope you've gotten some really good tips and ideas about how to promote yourself as a vintage seller or vintage dealer. And I hope you'll subscribe to this podcast. And I look forward to having you join me on a future episode. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Jennie.